Problem with the live stream, it never tells you when you're live. So we could just assume that maybe it's live, but it's saying it's setting up our meeting. So as soon as it says we're set up, if
Okay.
anybody is having to listen to this, we
Uh-huh.
do apologize. So welcome to the Love Cars on the Grid, your global motorsport podcast roundup, where we look back on a week of motorsport from all over the world. But there wasn't much going on around the world, but it was very exciting, especially at home with BTCC. Where else were we, Tiff?
Well,
Remind me, because I've just
we'll go
walked through
around the
the
world
door.
normally. There was MotoGP. We'll talk about that later over in Japan. There was, of course,
NASCAR, of course.
NASCAR with Talladega. But I just think for once, instead of going around the world first, we should start at home. Because it was the final
crown a champion.
round. Yeah, crowning the touring car champion. It was the sort of highlight of the weekend in England, that's for sure. And, after 27 races, it all came down to pretty much
29?
two drivers.
I thought it was 29. 27 must be 27.
That's 30. It's three a meeting, three a weekend. Multiples were three. 27 times that's a multiple. 29 is not a multiple of three, Paul.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, but that's what I thought it was, 29. But you're right. It's got to be multiple.
27. So it's 27. They came to Bransfield with 3 rounds to go. And it was really all between Jake Hill and Tom Ingram. There was a chance, I think, of Ash Sutton retaining his crowd, and a few others were mathematically there. But we all knew, really, it was this head-to-head. And I think they've had they're down to only 20 cars from 27. So there's been a bit of a sort of cull, which, of course, Mr. Gow says, yeah, we only really want 20, mate. Yeah, we didn't want 27, too many. But anyway, it is what it is. I hate saying it is what it is. I didn't say that. Only 20 cars. But the hybrid was up this year. So they went from 30 horsepower to 60 or something. So the overtake button, and they rationed it very well. So, if you're up the front, you only had 2 laps. And if you're down the back, you had 10. I still prefer the old ballast. I think the ballast was a better system. They dropped that last year when they brought hybrid in. Because, of course, the push to pass, it's so easy to defend, really, if you're a midfield car. It's so easy to hold someone off. Whereas the sort of extra ballast sort of handicapped you in the corners under braking down the straight. So it was a sort of anyway. And it seems to me that the sort of the top guys, they were thinking that qualifying would be, the midfield people, a lot of push to pass would qualify higher than the front runners, which is what used to happen with the old weight penalty. But they didn't, because Turkington took pole from Ingram and from Sutton, the top 3, and it was really Jake Hill was down in 6th place and half a second off. So it was all building up nice. It was going to be a cracking decider, and then it all nearly went wrong on the first bloody lap up to Druid. So it was Josh Cook who was also in a mathematically chance, but he said he had a puncture, but something weird. He locked up the rears.
It was weird, wasn't it? Rears locked up, yeah.
And so he wiped out Sutton for sure, and pretty much took Ingram out of the picture. We thought, oh no, if Ingram retires the whole weekend, it's a Jake Hill walk through. But it's amazing Ingram managed to get around the side of Ash, who was heading for the gravel. He was out of the championship and out of the race. Then had this amazing, drive back from 9th to 3rd. But of course, Turkington's a BMW man, so he wasn't racing Jake, and so he let Jake take the win in race 1, which gave him, what was it, a 1-point advantage, wasn't it, or something?
Well, it's 1 point after race 2.
Race 3, yeah, that was after race 2, because Ingram, of course, came back in race 2 and really just overtook both BMWs in the first lap and a half. I mean, he was the quickest car.
He just looked like unbeatable. It looked like there was no question that he was going to win it overall. Yeah, he was going to win the final race as well. No question.
He was half a second a lap quicker than the 2 BMWs in race 2. So that was when then Jake started. And Alan Gow drew the ball out of the bowl. As there were slight accusations going on, which I really caught. It was on social media. They were sort of accusing, was it Jake or someone, of pulling a number out of the bowl because he'd sort of checked the number. That was all a load of rubbish. Yeah. But, people were saying you must colour the bowl in. But Alan Gow took the number 7 out of the bowl, which put Ingram 7th and Jake Hill 6th. And so expecting this great finale, which I thought Ingram would win. The dry, I think Ingram would have seen the overtaking car. Then down came the rain. And it ended up being a damp squib, really, the final race. Because Ingram,
you said that on Twitter, which annoyed quite a few people on Twitter, because they said, well, it wasn't really damp squib, but it is, because we wanted it to be to the last lap, corner, clearways coming out, and he's going to win.
Yeah. I mean,
it wasn't. It was over too early.
Just had to be ahead of Ingram, and Jake was running 2nd, and Ingram was running 7th, so it was never going to happen. And we had Ash Sutton winning. It was amazing. That was only his 3rd win of the year,
Wow.
the champ. I know he's always
He
been
just seemed to
battling.
win from anywhere last year. It just
Yeah,
seemed
but
to win any race from anywhere.
he kept on getting damaged and he'd get into fights and things getting beaten. And
He's very aggressive. He's brilliant
yeah,
overtaker. Just
yeah.
seems to blast past people.
I was amazed at that. I think it's Jake Hill's got the most wins, about 8, I think, and so the most winningest driver won the championship. It's probably good.
Whose team were you in? Who did you want to win on the last race?
No, I wasn't bothered.
Jake
Jake's
fan
great.
or?
Well, Jake hasn't won it before. All the other top names have been champions. I think Jake deserves fully to be a champion. I know Simon Hill very well. His charismatic, crying father. That he was a big fan of motorsport, like me, and like so many people in motor racing. You know, he can name who won the Austrian Grand Prix in 1978. You know, Simon was a real Brands Hatch spectator that, you know, raced a bit amateur in Formula Ford and stuff. So his dad was very much like me, grew up, you know, on the fence, you know, dreaming of being right. He's helped Jake get through. And of course, Mark Blundell, we should thank, because he's helped find him sponsorship to get the drive with BMW. So many people have helped the Hills, Simon and some Jakes, haven't got much money. And so I think we're all delighted, really. It's because Brands Hatch's local track. So it was a great moment. The only thing is, you know, with the touring car drivers, I don't want to upset touring car fans by wanting to take their stars away. But I always said to Jason Plater, I said, Jason, you know, you should have left these touring cars 10 years ago. And, you know, when you only had 50 wins instead of 99 or however he got, you know, gone out into the world, you know, got to Le Mans in a Porsche G, might even get into a prototype car, you know, have a career.
You said that we met up with Ash Sutton when he was with Ollie Webb. And you said exactly the same thing to Ash Sutton two seasons ago. Yeah.
Get out, boy, you know, because they're so I mean, Jake and Ingram, I don't think the driver's skills shine enough in touring cars, because there's so many that are pushed to pass, and there's, you know, different tires, and it's a bit, you know, contrived, so you're never quite sure but the car's quicker or the driver's quicker. But not Ash. Simon, Jake and Tom had this fight at Goodwood when they were in TVR Tusky and AC Cobra, and the skills they showed in that race,
phenomenal drivers.
Yeah, so you appreciated their driving when you got out of the touring car sort of, you know, treadmill, as it were. Treadmill is quite a good word. You know, you're stuck in a treadmill. It's great fun. And you win the championship, but there's not much money to be earned. I don't think they're on big salaries like they were in the 90s when, you know, manufacturers were all in there. And I just love the likes of Ash and Jake to move on. So I'm sorry, touring car people. You can have other stars, you know, young drivers will come in.
I think everyone would encourage that, because then, like you said, you get the new drivers come through.
Yeah.
And those boys, then they get to travel the world, nice bit of sunshine.
Yeah, but they're really talented.
Go to Suzuka, go to Circuit of Americas, go to Le Mans. Do these amazing epic circuits that you're talented enough to do.
It needs them to take money. It's hard for them to get in. That's the trouble. I think, you know, as a touring car driver, I think sometimes their skills aren't appreciated enough by the outer world. You know, we've got Harry King, you know, that won the Porsche Super Cup in Britain, a support race, not even the touring cars, you know, and then got into Europe, and then got into the world. So he's won it. He's been down in Bathurst and won his class, and he's raced at Daytona. But I don't think the outside world appreciates how good, how talented the drivers in the British Touring Car Championship are, the top 3 or 4. And so, I'd love to see them move on.
Can you name a British touring car driver that's gone on to do Indy?
Well, no, nobody comes out of touring cars and goes anywhere, I don't think.
It's the other way around, like Nige went there after his career.
I came backwards, you know, to touring cars for my, so most of the big names that we earned good money, so the 90s, so the manufacturers were paying, well, not quite, Nissan didn't pay quite as well as others, but you know, so it was more people. I mean, Tim Harvey had a big career, but he went to Le Mans and did sports cars. So Tim Harvey sort of got out of touring cars and did do, to be honest. He's the one name I can think of. You know, Paul Radicic never went on anywhere. I can't really think of any other champions. And mostly, as I said, you know, Grand Prix drivers coming backwards.
Maybe they just love BTCC in their sport and they want to stay with it forever. So good.
Well, they do. They love it. The fans are great. It's a great little show. It's a great circus. But, you know, it's always the same old tracks. And there must be a lot of frustration in touring cars, you know, when you've got to battle all the different hybrid allowances and weight differences and getting pushed.
You get that
shoved.
Everywhere in any racing series now. You get that,
but they're real talents. And as I said, Simon Hill and Tom Ingram at Goodwood in those 2 cars, they were just their skills.
Jake Hill, Tom Ingram, You got Simon Hill on the brain, but I loved it. I love watching the overtaking and because they got the same cars. You got the same teammates, and there's just nothing in it when you got the same car. They just nudge their way through and push their way through, but brilliant driving.
And I thought just look at the support races. I mean, we concentrate on more on Brands Hatch that are going around the world. The Formula 4 champion. I hadn't watched any of the Formula 4. I ziz through the day. I can't watch all the races every Sunday when it's touring cars. And I'd sort of read this name because he's now an Autosport finalist, this Deegan Fairclough in the Formula 4s. And he's had 14 wins out of the 30 races. I mean, he's dominated Formula 4 like nobody has done for a while. And I didn't really know much about him, so I've done a bit of catching up. He didn't do much karting. I think he was fairly sort of low-level karting. Then he did Junior Saloons. It was his first car race. He did front-wheel drive those Fiestas and stuff. And he wasn't a star in those. He sort of finished 14th or 15th in the championship. And then he went into esports. He entered a Rocket-sponsored esports competition where the winner got a season of Formula 4 last season.
Yeah.
So he went straight from little hot hatch saloons, having done only a limited amount of karting, to a Rocket. And he was third in the championship last year. So went into a second year of single-seaters and has dominated it, and now goes to also a lovely guys. The interviews were great. So I'm really keen to see how Deegan Fairclough, because he won to the two proper races, the not reverse grid races. He won both of them at Brands. Although there was some guy out leading the first race and went off into the trees when a suspension broke. I haven't seen the video, but he was all fine, right? A big shunt. And that's sort of in the reverse grid race, maybe. So maybe he wasn't a front runner in that respect. So no, and he started the third race, on slicks. They all started on slicks. It started raining, and he was the pace setter out front. And he actually pulled away from the pack, didn't fall off. Then they stopped, had the red flag, put wet tyres on. But the other extreme, the other sort of thing of motorsport, I don't like to bring it up in a way, but Abby Pulling was there. I don't know who manages Abby, but I'm not sure if I was running Abby, I'd let her stay in British Formula 4 because she hasn't done the whole season. It was a good idea for her to go at the beginning of the year. But, she's struggling to get into the top 10. And, she's just come from Singapore on the podium, this huge publicity, winning the Formula 1 Academy race on an international stage, and then struggling to get to the top 10 in the rain at Brands Hatch.
But some people aren't wet weather drivers, Tiff.
But all year, wet or dry, she struggled to get to the top 10 in British Formula 4. So it's very tricky. I mean, next year, because winning the championship, she pretty much won the Formula 1 Academy, she'll get this Frecker drive, which, of course, last year's champion, Garcia, got, and she can't get into the top 20. So, it's great these girls have huge publicity spotlight. It's helping get younger girls to get into karting, to show that girls can go out and race in Singapore. But you sort of wonder how hard it is for them to move up the ladder, any further, when as soon as they go into an open championship, they're not on the podium anymore. It was the same really with Abby Pulling the other one. I was watching the Porsche, not Abby Pulling, yes, Abby Pulling, because Abby Eaton going on the other support race, because after Abby's brilliant win at Silverstone, she blew everyone away. Staggering drive. Sadly at Brands, she was back into the lower half of the field again. And she must have a trick at Silverstone. Any driver racing at Silverstone short circuit, I would recommend going to Abby Pulling. They spend a fortune on driver coaches. Abby Eaton, and the two Abby's mix. Everyone spends a fortune on driver coaching and going into the simulators and going into eye testing to see where you're looking. Anyone racing it, go to Abby Eaton and get Abby to charge about £5,000 a session to find out how she gets around the Silverstone national circuit so well, because she certainly does that.
She's rapid.
George Gamble was crowned champion in the Porsches. Maybe he's got a career going to Le Mans, going that route, Porsche Super Cup, perhaps get into a Porsche. That was Super. What do they call that? A Carrera Cup. That one. Super Cup is the international one. But one girl that did star, I thought, who I know very well because she's an instructor at Thruxton Motor Racing Circuit. I do my passenger laps in a BMW M2. Should you want to come and pay money, I'm there this Friday and Saturday. But Lydia's one of our instructors. She's been on these minis all season, battling away. And she had a fantastic... She's selling the car. It's on telly. She can't afford to do it anymore. She had a fifth and a fourth. And in the last race, was a wet race, she got pushed back at the start, finished sixth, but fastest lap. So she's finished, and all those blokes and stuff. And boy, when she's racing, if you do see Lydia, and you want to push past her in a crowd somewhere, I'm going to put her elbows are very sharp indeed. She finished half the races with no wing mirrors left. They were knocked off, but she wasn't giving an inch anywhere. So Lydia Walmsley, a huge shout out. She was the female star of the weekend this time. In a championship was won by Dan Zelos, who has already won the championship a while ago. Congratulations to Dan, who moved into touring cars. He's had a couple of good rides and probably could be a star of touring cars next year, Dan, if he gets the right seat. And thanks also to Steve Ryder for a wonderful year. David Addison, the best commentator in the world, and Tim Harvey doing so well alongside him. So a great team that won everything else. So
Paul O'Neill as well.
Paul.
David just said that BTCC, the drivers seem to have settled for retirement at a young age these days. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think they want longevity, but maybe they just like racing in that series.
Well, I know.
You do get a bit settled sometimes. Yeah, comfortable. That's the word.
Oh, I've dropped my ear out now. I've pulled my ear out. And of course, I have to mention Mark Cross, my mate who I play golf with, who lives up the road. He's the director on the touring cars, and also brilliant directed by Mark. You'd better be watching now. I've said that, Mark. So they do put on a great show. And it's just a shame that last touring car race was a bit of a damp squib in the end. Well, a wet squib, wasn't it? But it was damp. It was more than damp. It was wet.
The race was actually an exciting race. It wasn't a bad race. It was just...
No, it wasn't. They were spread out by miles.
Yeah.
Sutton was about half a lap ahead, wasn't he?
Right, where are we going? We're going MotoGP or we're going NASCAR?
Yeah, so MotoGP. MotoGP is the biggest championship, global championship outside of Formula One, really. And it's just a brilliant
It is the Formula One on two wheels.
On two wheels.
These bikes are crazy. The tech in these bikes. And I noticed, because we did some filming a month or so ago, Misano, as you know, and I noticed that the riders now, not on their leathers, Bagnaia had like a little like a go faster wing on his leather as well.
What?
But only on the right. Yeah, I was watching some footage, and he's got a lot of go faster wing on his leather for aerodynamics, I guess.
Oh, I don't know. It's a new one to me. Investigate further.
Yeah.
But it's just brilliant. I mean, this year, the championship, there's only two riders in the championship, and they're both on Ducati bikes, identical, but one's on a factory bike and one's on the satellite bike, and one's been sacked by Ducati. So it's a fantastic battle between Francesco Bagnaia on the factory bike, the Italian against Jorge Martin, the Spaniard on the Pramac satellite bike. And of course, Marc Marquez keeps on turning up and mixing it with them. And of course, Marc Marquez is the man that's taking Jorge Martin's saddle, whatever they call it. They call it a saddle anymore, seat probably.
Seat.
So it's been this fantastic championship that it ebbs and flows. And last weekend, last time out, Bagnaia closed the gap on the leader, Jorge Martin. But this time, Martin dropped it in qualifying, pressure on, only qualified 11th because he dropped out. So Bagnaia was therefore left to take pole position, but didn't. Is our favourite Pedro Acosta with his satellite to KTM before he moves to the factory. He took pole position. Amazing, this 20-year-old kid. So we had all that. So the battle was going on. The sprint race went, and Bagnaia led from the start. The Costa muscled his way past. And then, as he's been doing a lot recently, because he's pushing that KTM, which isn't a race-winning bike, so hard, and down he went. It's only about 3 laps to go, and he had about a 3-second lead.
You see it so often with the bike.
When you can see on the telly, Michael, when I put the replay, he just turned in 5 feet later. You could almost see the line where Russ was turning in. So he made it a later turn in by fraction, which meant he had to put another millimetre of extra lock on. And he said he just had to put on a bit more lock and a bit more brake, and boom, down goes the front in the gravel. Bagnaia wins the sprint. Martin got from his 11th up to when he finished in the end. He got up to 4th in that sprint race. Bagnaia's teammate Bastianini was second.
On his flying lap for pole position, he'd have had pole, but didn't he on turn 4 just exceed track limits by...
That was Marquez. That was Marquez.
Marquez, thank you.
Marquez, who said FQ2 at the last weekend when I talked about swearing. He did it again in Q2, and this time he was over the green track limits line, apparently by 3 millimetres.
Yeah.
For a lap time, it would have put him in the front row.
But a line's a line. You've got to draw the line
nobody
somewhere.
Complains. Yeah, it's either a wall. If you want a wall, or do you want a bit of green? Yeah. But you have to accept that rule with track limits. That is the point of track limits. Either have a wall, which might hurt, or accept that touching the green. So he qualified 9th. Yet again, he was back. So again, he's always battling back. Marquez, he always qualifies badly. Then at the Grand Prix itself, Bagnaia got the whole shot this time and led again, and Pedro was second, and Pedro was catching, and Pedro was working out where he was going to take the lead and win a Grand Prix for his KTM gas satellite team. And he dropped it again. Oh, Paul. The trouble is, the saddest thing is, because the team is leaving them. He's got a factory KTM ride, but the gas team is like a privateer team, and they all love him and they all hug, and he... Oh, I don't know. Such a shame. So Bagnaia won the race, and Martin got through to second, and Marc Marquez was third. It was a typical old... so the race in the end wasn't that tight. Marquez was holding off Bastianini at the end, which was quite a close thing.
Well, two races ago, Marquez was in the hunt. I mean, outside chance, but he's in the hunt. And now Bastianini's ahead of him in the championship. Only just. Point,
but they're close, aren't they? So now the gap at the front's closed down from 21 to 10 points as Bagnaia claws his way back. And where they go off to next?
Sorry, Tiff, the top 12, other than Brad Binder, who's South African in 5th place, the top 12 are either Spanish or Italians. It's just incredible. And I spoke to one of the journalists at Misano, and he said, one of the British journalists, he said, you won't see a British rider come into MotoGP. I think I said this for 10, 15 years.
Nobody's looking good enough. They've always got to live in
the academy platforms.
They've got to go and live in Spain or something. Exactly. Join the Spanish or the Italian.
They are good enough. It's just whether you can afford to take your whole family to Spain or Spain effectively.
But no, that's what they go to Australia next. They've still got 4 rounds to go. Which is 8 races. So I mean, this championship isn't over. And if you, I don't know what do I watch that on TNT, isn't it? Which used to be another name after. I do pay for all these things. I know it's annoying, but I'm sure you've got a way of seeing these things. You know how to download.
Maybe someone can let us know. There's a couple of people online now watching, but isn't there like something you can buy where you get all of these channels? That'd be nice.
Not legally. Not legally. I don't think.
Well, I wouldn't buy one. I wouldn't buy one illegally. I wouldn't buy it. It's just
you can download. You can go onto the podcast. You can find them. Anyway, so worth watching. Of course, not just MotoGP, because there's Moto2 and Moto3. Moto2, you talk about one British rider, Jake Dixon. He's never going to get it. I think he had one Grand Prix. They put him out on a bike in the British Grand Prix a couple or 3 years ago when he got a one-off chance just because someone was injured. But he was on pole for Moto2 and led away from the start, a British win, and then the rain came down and they were on slicks. So they all put their arms up in the air and said, oh, no. So the red flags came out, and they then 90% of the field, well, not 80% of the field, went to wets. But Iogura, almost the championship winner, I think he hasn't quite won it points-wise, who's moving up to Grand Prix, the Japanese star, he put slicks on, and so did 4 others followed his path. Paul's going for a wheel change now into the pits. I don't know quite what he's doing, but he's doing something there in the background. So 5 of them bravely went out on slicks, led by Iogura. And for Dick, it didn't work. Slicks were the right answer. Amazingly, none of the 5 dropped it or fell off while splashing around in the rain, but it wasn't that wet. It was just very, very damp still. And slicks were the right answer. Jake ended up 13th, having got pole position, went backwards. Ogura got to the front and looks like he's going to walk to a win to please the Japanese fans at the Montague circuit. But this Spanish boy, Manuel Gonzalez, caught him up and went past him, and he apologised for having won the race for all the Japanese crowd for ruining their day. But it was his first win in Moto2, so great result for him. Entertaining. I mean, it was good just to see them surviving. I mean,
must be amazing. I mean, I've stood on the podium, but I never got a first place. Must be amazing, especially your first one in such a
first win.
Massive international field like that. Incredible.
And the Moto3, we've just run out of superlatives for this young Colombian kid, David Alonso, who won again, his 10th win, and did enough to win the championship with 4 rounds still to go. He's got the championship. He's equal. I think Marc Marquez got 10 wins. I think Rossi got 10 wins. Someone else got 10 wins, but he can get more wins. He's got another 8 races to go. And this kid, he was running about 6th or 7th again for most of the race. And he just watches what's going on up ahead. The others kids are all just overtaking every corner, desperate to get to the lead. And he just picks them off and won yet again. Did his showbiz at the end. This time they had a video. They all park up with some sort of theatrical thing these motorbike boys make up. And he had a video of his little kid on his tiny mini bike. And they had a mini bike there. It was what he raced on. He got on a mini bike. He deliberately fell off it and lay on his back and crashed it and comes in tears. They're all in tears. Everyone's in tears. And they've always got the number 1 plate ready to go on the bike, and they've all got the T-shirts, David Alonso. And then the interesting, all the other Moto3 kids were all stopping. They all park up like in a car park. They've all gone down to having a meet, down the supermarket. They're all hugging him, and they're all hugging him because they want him to go to Moto2 so someone else can win. But I mean, a wonderful story, and David Alonso. So MotoGP, brilliant down over in Motegi.
I got some news. I got some news before we go to NASCAR.
Yes, why not? Why not have some news?
Hot off the press, breaking news. 4 weeks ago, I announced, and much to your snoring, I announced that Rolex may not be the watch partner of F1 next season, and it looks like it's going to be LVMH, the Louis Vuitton Hennessy.
And Rolex. I saw they got Rolex as well.
No, Rolex have apparently balked at the $150 million per year price tag, thought to be 3 times higher than the $50 million they've been paying. So it's almost certainly going to be Tag Heuer, although Hublot and Zenith could also get involved, but it's probably going to be Tag Heuer. It's all about money. We won like 15 grand a year. They got 150 million a year just to have a few logos here and there. Anyway, let's go to NASCAR.
There's no Formula One news. We still don't know who the bloody Alpine driver is going to be next year. Not the Alpine, the Sauber stroke Audi, not Alpine. We don't know who's going to go that drive.
James Vowles said that he's got the best 2 drivers on the grid. I mean, that's a good way to talk up your boys, isn't it? Yeah. I think Alex Albon's quality, Carlos Sainz is solid, but Carlos Sainz isn't as good as Charles Leclerc, his teammate, and that's the only person you can really, really, truly say that compare them against. But they got 2 good drivers, but
they're working on track limits as well out at Kota. Apparently, they're putting down some of this glued gravel like they have in Zandvoort in Holland.
That's good.
And they got some grass. Remember some grass? They're trying to deter them from going off because there were a lot of people going off in those really fast S's. Turn 6, they were corner cutting.
I miss the Formula One. It's been quite some time. You kind of accept the summer break.
I know.
This seems to be
I don't
really
like summer breaks. Just have a race every 2 weeks. 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks.
Yeah, but Tiff, it's about being carbon neutral and sustainability. You can't have a race every 2 weeks because then you got all these people
next,
flying.
Let's move on. Next question. NASCAR. You're talking about carbon neutral and sustainability.
My goodness, NASCAR. Wow, for once I have to say that was some excitement there.
But it wasn't. It wasn't. I mean, it's a stupid race. Talladega is own it up. It's a ridiculous race. This modern time. But it's NASCAR. The Daytona 500. That is NASCAR. And I know it's a stupid race. They all sit there at 200 miles an hour, all full throttle, jockeying for position. And some of my tweets have said, ridiculous, stupid race. And then they all crash at the end. But it's just part of the whole package. If you don't like that race, there's a race every weekend. There's 36 meetings or something a year, So if you may not like Talladega, then you can love going to another track or a short.
Yeah, but it's much and muchness. I know there are different lengths of ovals, and then you get the occasional track, but it's much and muchness, really, isn't it?
Well, no, they're not pack racing. There's only Daytona and Talladega, but they're all full throttle.
So for those who didn't see it, Talladega was just nuts. It was crazy. They had 4 cars a breadth. It was like a procession, but it was military precision. There was no room for error.
How many rows? Four. How many? It's about 4 cars. So it's about 10. Yeah, so 10 lanes. There are a few missing a drop back, but roughly that. Yeah, 10 rows. 4 rows of 10.
You imagine one person just getting it wrong at the
and you see them moving around when you're on the camera. They're moving slightly left and right. And then they're all using a bit of side drum. They're pushing and shoving because it's all about getting the push and the shove. And but it was actually a very quick race. There weren't many yellows. Suarez was terrifying. So Suarez had a drive-through penalty for something he did. I forget what it was. And then, of course, one car goes a lot slower than 4 lanes or 40 cars. And so when you're being lapped, the pack comes at you, going about 10 miles an hour faster than you. You know, you're only down at 190, they're doing 200. And he bizarrely chose to sit in the middle of the road. So I don't know what he was doing. But of course, they all split. They're only 3 wide at that stage, to be fair. Yeah. And so they all split. So he's like going backwards through these 2 lanes. So he's just heading back. And bizarrely, suddenly decided there was half a gap to the top lane, but he's still going 5 miles an hour slower than the moving pack. And he moved up trying to get into the slot, and the bloke hit him and he went off and crashed, and that was him out of the year. We're almost out for the day, came back later. And then we got right the way through the 2 stages, because they have this stage racing now, so that means you get a restart. You know, after stage 1, points are scored after stage 1, and then you run to stage 2. Then the first big crash was right at the end of stage 2, because they want the points for the playoffs. They're all desperate to get across the line. That's why they have these stages, because it means you go 3 races within one. Poor old, who was it? Alex Bowman. He's so apologetic now after the race, but he was trying to do, and he was right behind. Ryan Blaney was in the middle, and but there was a bit of a gap behind him, and he was on his own. So Bowman was actually being pushed by teammate Carl Larson, and they just came up, and they wanted to try and help in a way. So he was trying to push Blaney to move them all forward 1 place or 2. But if you get this pushing wrong, it was in the tri-oval, so you haven't really got the downforce of a big banking, so you're almost a bit light anyway. Anyway, just turned sharp right at 200. And Blaney but he also took, poor old Blaney hit the wall, but he took Ross Chastain, the Mellor man, with him. So both cars were obliterated. So those 2 were out. But they were the only 2 retirements, amazingly, after 2 stages. So we hadn't, normally there's a big one in the middle of the race and a big one at the end of the race. The big one's been the crashes. So they then got to 7 laps from the end with no more cautions. And it was just the pack was coming. So you know it's building up, and the tension is building up. And Austin Cindric, who was, he's 12th in the 12 points people. So he's to get through on points. This is the second of the 3 races that decide who gets cut from 8 to 12. And Cindric was 12th. But if you win, of course, you're guaranteed to get into the 8. So he was leading. I've got to win Talladega. But he sort of accidentally, when they're going foot, you mustn't get too far ahead of the pack, because then you slow down and the pack then comes back at you 3 or 4 or 5 miles an hour faster. So what you do, apparently, if you're out front and there's a bit of gap behind you, trail brake with your left foot. You keep full throttle, so the engine keeps running, and you just let yourself drop back slowly.
Oh, crikey.
But he didn't. And it was going into turn 3, I think it was, and Brad Keselowski, who had Joey Logano pushing him. So Logano's pushing, but of course Logano can't see the car in front of the car in front. So he can't judge that speed of closing. So Logano's pushing Keselowski, going, come on, boy. Come on, Brad, let's go. And then, of course, they slammed into the back of poor old Cindric, who lost control. You know, you get hit that much, you know, don't get hit dead straight on in a straight. So we literally had the leader then spinning down the middle of the 2 lanes. You know, 'cause it was only 2 wide, and they were just, I've never seen such a big car park at the bottom. There's a number of crashes going on. There must have been 24 cars parked at one stage. Some lived.
That's crazy.
So it does look stupid, but it's just that's part of NASCAR. It's history, and it's one of the races. But they're twice a year they go there. But it's because it's within the playoffs. It's a bit of a curveball to have a lottery race. A lot of people then lost a lot of points. You know, I think in fact, Joey Logano's outside. He's gone down to 9th because he lost so many places by being crashed out in the big crash. And Chase Elliott was in it as well, one of the most popular drivers. He's 8th in the points. So
who's the golden boy of NASCAR?
Chase Elliott's the big picture boy. He's the most popular.
More than Carl Larson?
Larson's coming high, I think. But of course, you know, Elliott's he's got his dad was, you know, and Elliott was a NASCAR driver champion as well. So It's a bit like the Earnhardt family. The Elliott family are very similar to the Earnhardt heritage.
So Dale and who else in the Hart family?
It's mainly
Dale Earnhardt Jr. and
and Dale, those two. There were other Earnhardts that raced, but not as successfully. And of course, Bill Elliott, Chase's dad, was Awesome Bill from Dawsonville. I always like that one. Bill Elliott, Awesome Bill from Dawsonville.
You got good knowledge. I'll give you that.
When the survivors got back on track and they cleared it all up, it was down to one of those green-white checkers. So it's down for a 2-lap race. Normally, they end up having 3 or 4 of those because on lap 1 of the green flag, they have another crash. Everyone's so desperate to get to the front because there's only 2 laps to go now. But amazingly, they managed to finish the 2 laps. And normally on the run to the finish line, again, there's a huge crash because it's on the slight curve of the tri-oval. And it's great there. They have the finish line sort of 2/3 round the tri-oval, which really annoys me like mad in Formula One. So I don't know why it is. And there is some logical FIA reason. Like Monza, the start line at Monza is at the end of the pits. But the finish line is the beginning of the pits. So if you come out of the final course, it's famous slipstreaming when Peter Gethin won at Monza and that 4 Ronnie Peterson was there. And they come to the line 4 wide, because they've come out of the parabolic and then he slipstreamed down the start-finish straight. And you can get really good finishes. But all of that, Silverstone's the same. Silverstone Grand Prix track, the finish is just after the last corner, whereas the starting line is halfway up the pits. And it's just because there's so many races are done by exiting the last corner a mile and a half faster than the car in front and creeping past them to win. So, so it was
it was proper photo finish though, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was 800ths of a second covered the winner, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., from Brad Keselowski, William Byron, and Kyle Larson, and all four are just on the front. And
did you see? I can't believe how good their slow-mo camera was. I don't know why more teams don't, or more races don't invest in that type of technology. It was far better than what you see at FIA for Formula One and stuff like that. It was proper. It wasn't frame by frame. It was like a proper slow-mo camera. You can see so clearly that it was
stopped. And they're doing 200. And they're doing 200 miles an hour.
Yeah, really astonishing bit of technology.
So great, but it's funny how some of these outsiders win these super speedway races because Ricky Stenhouse Jr. he won the Daytona I think a year or 2 ago. He's never features on normal tracks, but there are a couple of wild cards that always seem to be up the front at the end of these crazy races and get the wins. Quite how or why, I have no idea, but they do crop up. Maybe they're just sort of braver or more stupid, or one of the two, or just. But Stenhouse was a good win for Stenhouse. And he actually got hit in the big crash when Cendric was pushed to spin. Cendric actually came up and hit Stenhouse really hard. And the car just, normally that would have sent him into the wall, but somehow it just must have hit at the centre of gravity or the centre of something. And Ricky Stenhouse, more famous, of course, for being Thingy's boyfriend, Danica Patrick's boyfriend for a long time.
Oh.
So that's the racing.
I thought I had a chance with her as well.
They're not together anymore, but it was a big romance. It was a NASCAR.
So you're saying I have got a chance? Amazing.
So it's all a bit stupid. People can tweet it's stupid, but it's NASCAR and it's entertainment. I mean, I always watch it. You have to watch it.
Why is it stupid? It's not stupid. It's
they're all sitting there.
I'm not a fan, but I see it's entertainment.
It's a long watch if you watch it live. So I'm a big fan of Sky times 30 and see it's true.
Well, don't they, when you go and watch it live, actually, when you go to the event, don't you sort of go out halfway through with you, have a barbecue?
Well, yes, but you've got the radio, the best bits. You're all on these radio scanners. So it's brilliant then because you could just follow whatever drive. You go on board, you listen to the spotters, you hear the drivers saying to the crew chief, I think we need another, we need to get a bit front turning. We need a bit more of this. They're chatting away. So you get involved with your driver.
We don't do it very well over here. I know some circuits put a frequency
Formula One,
for the radio.
Would you? Well, the Formula One
because they want to charge you. Or they want to charge you.
Yeah, they want us all listening in.
Oh no, you need to buy a radio. That's £25 for the privilege. So yeah, it's a shame.
They did have it on Formula One. They had it on Formula One.
You do, and you buy it. Yeah, you buy it. But none of it's free. Can we go now? Because it's been quite a long time and I need to go and have my dinner. I just walked through the door at 1 minute to
What do
7.
you mean? I've got to go and cook my dinner. Patsy's out doing a painting lessons tonight, and I'm starving. So I've got to go and cook mine as well.
I'm meeting the crew for a burger down the road.
Next weekend.
Yes.
Of course, NASCAR, the third of the races that decides who goes into the last 8 is at the Roval, Charlotte Rovals. That's a road course where it's half stadium, half on inboard. There's another. It was an amazing race on Sunday. Petit Le Mans, a road Atlanta, one of the most amazing American racetracks. Fantastic to watch. It's a 10-hour race. It's on IMSA on your computers. So it's on IMSA's channel. It's got a wonderful commentary of John Hindhoff and Martin Shaw, 2 Brits that spent a lot of time in America. It's got the LMP cars, the GTPs, as they call them, the hybrid sports cars. It's got GT2s, LMP2s, LMP3s, GTAMs, GT Pros, 50 cars. It's always chaos, always drama, fantastic racing from the sports cars. IMSA, World Superbikes, Estoril, NASCAR's there. Fuji have got their Super Formula, where De Vries is hoping to star, the only non-Japanese driver. Supercars in Australia, Bathurst. And if you're in Britain, you've got to go to Brands Hatch again for the Grand Prix circuit to watch Kyle Ryde try to take the title off of Tommy Bridewell, Yamaha versus Honda, Brands Hatch motorbikes.
Exciting stuff. So Phil McCormack, he's teasing me with a burger emoji. He's been here from the beginning. So thanks to everyone for listening, especially the guys that are live. Corey, Phil, David, Thomas, and amongst others. And we'll see you next week with a normal one, and we should be back up and running now on Spotify and all the podcast stuff as well. So
does this one go on Spotify or not?
It will, but not live. It takes a while to upload.
But tomorrow,
tomorrow it'll be on Spotify. Yeah. So thanks for